time for another edition of the Game News Show. My favorite time of the week, because we get to go over all the game news over the last 7 days. At least the stuff I found the most interesting. I hope others do too. That you may have not known about. So, let's jump into the beginning. Alright, so last week we talked about Sonic Origins. Might be coming out soon. And literally, the day I posted the video, Sega dropped a trailer. So we have a release date, June 23rd, Sonic's birthday. Makes perfect sense. Couldn't have asked for a better release date. We got confirmation that these are the mobile versions of the game, just ported to console, which is fantastic. Meaning that we get an actual, like, proper widescreen version of Sonic 3, which is awesome, because if you've played the Xbox 360 version of Sonic CD, that is the experience you're getting in this collection. You know, you're getting the actual widescreen support, scaled up to HD properly. Just extra features, little extras in there that you wouldn't have expected. I think Sonic CD has Tails in it. That wasn't a thing. And so, yeah, you're getting a bunch of new features here for these games, making this like the definitive way to play the Sega Genesis titles, in my opinion. But it wasn't all good news with the announcement, which the trailer is pretty hype. I would recommend going and watching it. But then Sega tweeted out a chart, and anytime a game publisher tweets out a chart to explain how to buy their game, nobody likes it. Hey, just move away from the charts. Make it easy. The problem was, there's only 2 versions of the game to buy, and for some reason they listed DLC in it, and it made 0 sense. It was absolute nonsense. I won't even put the chart up here, mostly because I forgot to, but also because it would just confuse you. It is a confusing chart. So what you need to know is there are 2 versions of the game. One version has all the DLC in it. The other version doesn't have the DLC in it. Pick whichever one you want, but those are the only 2 versions you can get. So yeah, that's where Sonic Origins is. I'm really hyped for this release. It's going to be a great, great game, or compilation of games with a bunch of new features and just a bunch of awesomeness included. And I'm really hyped for it. But also, and I suspected this might be the thing, Sega sent out a press release. Didn't make a big fanfare for this one, but they are delisting the existing Sonic 1, 2, and 3 ports that currently exist on Xbox, PlayStation Network, and Steam. They're delisting them before the game comes out on May 20th. Kind of weird, but I'm not a big fan of those versions. They're emulated, but they're not really like pure versions of the game. You can't do any of the cheat codes. Some of the extra stuff is hidden behind menus. It's just an awkward, they felt very clunky. It's just a bad experience in my opinion. I bought them because I was hyped to be able to play them and get achievements, and that was great. But outside of that, there is no reason to get these ports when this is coming out. Like, just 100% honesty here, that's not the case. However, the 2 Sega Ages versions of Sonic 1 and 2, there's on the Switch, and Sonic 2 on the not virtual console, the Switch Online Sega Genesis app. Those are staying. Weird, but okay, I guess. It's just always kind of sucky when they go and delist a game, right? It's just not, I don't know. To me, it's like, okay, well, I hope you bought it because you'll never get it. But in this case, it makes sense, right? So anyway, that's all I have to say for Sonic Origins. Really hyped for the game. It does stink to see some games being delisted, but if you bought them, no big deal. It's all good. All right, moving on to the next thing. Overwatch 2. The beta started today. I'm really excited to see, want to watch some people streaming it, which is actually good, because if you're like me and don't own the PC version of Overwatch 2, you can still get a beta key through Twitch drops tomorrow if you watch 4 hours of whoever's approved. I don't have the list. I didn't even bother looking it up. I figured I could figure that out in the morning. But you go watch 4 hours of Overwatch 2 streams on Twitch, you'll get a beta key. It's pretty much guaranteed as long as the time is tracked correctly. So, yeah, that sounds cool. Also, they have announced a bunch of character reworks that I'm just not a big fan of. In concept, But having seen some of this played out in some of the streams I did get to see today of gameplay, um, that being, we're going to start with Doomfist. So Doomfist is now a tank, makes sense. But they've gotten rid of his uppercut ability. Great. I'm terrible at that move. And they just tweaked all of his other stuff. So he's got a faster ammo recovery, but they decreased the damage on it. He now has a block, which is kind of cool. Makes him more tanky. Now he can just take some damage. His rocket punch has been, it's faster charge, but slightly less damage. Okay, that's a fair trade. And then his seismic slam works kind of like Winston's leap, but it deals damage and slows enemies. That sounds awesome, right? Like, you can see it right there on the screen. I don't need to read all of it. But I'm excited to see how this plays out, because I'm terrible at Doomfist, and now I might like be able to do stuff with him just because he has more health. He's not going to die instantly like he does now. I've just never been a fan of that. We also got the Erisa rework. This is totally different. It's very weird. So they've completely changed Erisa, except her main weapon is pretty much the same, except instead of reloading, it just heats up and cools down. But her barrier's gone. You now have a javelin that can be thrown or spun. Her ult no longer boosts people. It's now some kind of damaging move. But they pretty much removed all of her fun abilities. Mostly halt and the barrier. I'm kind of curious why they just completely changed, but I think they're trying to get away from the barrier meta that the series currently has been in for, or the game has currently been in for a while. It makes sense that they want less shields, but I think they're just kind of shifting the way shields work around. Kind of makes sense. This coupled with all of the stuff they did for Sigma, and then Reinhardt, I think, got a little bit of a buff in how he works as well. So it all makes sense. I'm just hoping to see more streams to see how the beta is going to work out just as a whole. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully I can get in. I hope the beta keys mean you can just play even if you don't own a copy of the game. I did not see anyone talking about it. I didn't see any confirmation or denial of it. But I know that to get in on the first wave of today's launch, you had to have the game Overwatch 1 installed already, and it's PC only, so that's where it is. All right, let's move on to the next thing. PlayStation 5 news. Variable refresh rate is coming to the system this week. There's a handful of games. I'll pull up the list that I found here that will be ready at launch of this feature. Call of Duty Vanguard, Black Ops Cold War, both Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales, and Ratchet & Clank are some of the most notable titles. Destiny being in there's kind of cool. Resident Evil Village, those games will all support it. What that really means for everybody is that if you have a high refresh rate monitor that supports variable refresh rates, you'll be able to take advantage of that from your PlayStation, which means your gameplay will be a lot smoother. A lot of games have gotten weird performance boosts from variable refresh rate, but it's just because your game is no longer locked or capped at a minimum or a maximum frame rate. There's just your monitor will adjust as the system does with frames. It's a much better experience. Having my monitor with my Xbox Series S and some of the games that support VRR, it's very nice. It's very nice. It's less choppy and just a smoother experience. So very cool to see that finally coming to the PlayStation. PlayStation owners rejoice. You finally have a next gen feature that should have been there from launch, but hey, better late than never, right? All right, moving on. We had some Apex news drop today. We got to talk about this. The new season of Apex Legends was announced. Season 13, Saviors. We've got big changes coming to Ranked. The Stormpoint map has been altered. Now has a giant boss monster. Looks kind of cool. And we have a new legend, Newcastle, who is a defensive hero, or legend, excuse me. Looks awesome. I've seen some, leaks of his moveset recently. Looks great. He can drag people off. His ult is a big wall. It looks awesome. I can't wait to see how this kit plays out. I'm really excited for the ranked changes to see how they play out. It looks like they're trying to line up with what was talked about. If anybody's in the Apex Legends mobile preview on Android, I think. You already know probably how this is going to work, but it looks like you'll be able to go down a tier. So you will D-rank instead of just being stuck at a certain tier for a while. It makes sense, but it does kind of suck if you're like constantly going between like gold and silver, probably where I would be when I play ranked. That's usually where I land. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. It might spread the skill out between players a little more evenly. So really excited to see just the new season, and just glad to see that this game is still doing phenomenally well, because I never expected it to be as popular as it is when I installed it. But it's still one of my most favorite games to play. It's a lot of fun. In our last segment, we got some Halo Infinite news last week. We got the date for Season 2, which is actually 7 days from now, next Tuesday. Season 2, Lone Wolves, actually kicks off officially with a new battle pass. And then that will also be a big update for the game itself. Halo's accounts and then their Halo Waypoint website, 343 shared a roadmap, which I'll make big here that we can look at. The big takeaways are there's some new maps, new modes, some new events coming throughout the season. There's the new battle pass, which has all sorts of new stuff included on it. Seems kind of interesting. I did not hate the first season's battle pass, except that getting through the levels without double XP tokens was way too grindy, and it just did not feel worth it for some of the rewards you got. Overall, it's a good first start. Some of the other events that'll be coming later that are notable is late August for online co-op, which is kind of a bummer. I was hoping co-op would come this spring, but I guess they just couldn't get it done by then. And Forge will go into beta targeting September. So awesome. I always love to see what people do with Forge. The first big things are going to be all of the maps ever made in Halo remade in Forge, but in Infinite. It's going to be a fun time for everybody. And then Season 3 will launch in November, which is interesting that they're already talking about Season 3, but it looks to last it feels longer than what Season 1 lasted. Season 2 is going to last a while. It just seems. But hopefully these fixes and there maybe be some surprises that they drop on us throughout the season. Really excited for the day one update for Infinite, but we'll see where that goes. I honestly don't know what's taking so long with Halo. Like I guess they're finally getting it in gear. Maybe they just struggled to make that move to live services. Who knows? It's free to play now, so I can see there may be some different struggles and challenges to get content out quickly, and what we're all used to with games like Fortnite, Apex, and etc. But I'm excited to see what they do. I still have hope that 343 can pull off some solid content. The game itself is still fun to play. We've streamed it from time to time. So yeah, what are your guys' favorite parts of today's episode or tonight's episode? Tonight? I don't know. If you're watching on YouTube, this is tomorrow, so I hope it gets posted okay, and the world hasn't ended by the time I posted it. But anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, please consider liking, subscribing, and then comment down below what do you think of Sonic Origins actually coming out, and then are you playing Overwatch 2? I would like to. I kind of want to know when the official console release is, because I'm excited for that game. If you're watching on Twitch, thanks for hanging out. We're going to go on to the regular thing in a moment. But anyway, thanks for watching on YouTube.
Power weapons available for procurement. Enemy flag carrier spotted.
I got it stuck. That was a dumb thing.
Flag return.
Sit down. I saw him coming.